you want to go ahead and start?
Morning, Bill.
I know since it's just the two of us, I usually do try and start right at 10, but since it's just the two of us, I'm just give it a minute to see if anybody else pops on.
Everybody else said they were calling in.
Yeah, Jennifer, who else are we expecting this morning? In
So,
terms of committee members?
yeah, Cliff confirmed he's calling in. Pat Kemp confirmed she's calling in. Everybody else confirmed that they're calling in.
Okay, well, we'll give it just one more minute then.
Okay.
And Chair Holton sends his regrets. He planned to call in, but had an unforeseen conflict this morning, which pulled him away.
So we have someone else join. Who else is on the line?
Cliff Manuel.
Good morning,
Hey,
Cliff.
Cliff, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Good.
Good. You've got Melanie and Commissioner Long, which you can probably hear. We're just giving a minute or two to see if we get any other committee members to join.
All right.
Starkey and Kemp.
All right, well, it might just be the three of us. So let's go ahead and I'm going to call this meeting to order to get us going on this Friday. With that, are there any public comments?
Bill or not?
Do you want to identify?
Okay.
She's one of our
Yes,
emergency.
and then if everybody tell me who else is in the room, please.
A new employee.
Oh, do
You
you
met
want
me
to?
last, you met me at the board meeting.
I did?
Yeah, well,
I apologize.
it's okay, well, David introduced me to the board.
Yeah.
No, that's all right. No
He's our
worries.
new planner. He's our senior planner.
So we have Bill Johnson and our new planner here this morning joining us and staff.
Great, okay, and I apologize, I updated David this morning that our nanny is out today, and our dog Molly has 2 new hotspots. She's been struggling with that the last couple of weeks, so Mike and I are tag teaming childcare in the set today, so I apologize for not being there in person, but we are short-handed, so to speak, in the Griffin household. So with that, we have a consent agenda item, which is, since there's no public comment, moving on to agenda items to committee meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yes.
If so, is there a motion?
Well,
Can we make a motion? I don't think we
we
can.
can't take a
No.
vote today, so
Oh, that's
I
right,
would
that's right.
recommend
You're
that
right,
we
don't
just
vote.
build a consensus to move it on to the board.
Okay, is there a second to that motion, Cliff?
I agree with the consensus to move it to the board.
Yes.
Yeah, by consensus, yeah.
Yes, okay, perfect, great. And I apologize. I am working with a new computer. Can someone tell me what the next item is? I keep
Travel
remembering
and
this.
expense reimbursement policy and guidelines, and Debbie is here to give us a summary.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Debbie. If you want, I know we started talking about this last month, and Debbie, one of the things I'd be curious to know is if it's in addition to any additional comments you have, that if it's in the same format, or if the amendment that was discussed, the friendly amendment that's been discussed by the committee has been made.
There is, actually within the policy as it stood last month.
Can you speak up?
Oh,
We
sure.
can't hear you on the recordings either.
In the, what was presented last month, there actually is a sentence in here on page 5 that any requests that are not submitted within 30 days of travel or the expense being incurred may be denied reimbursement. That would solely be up to, I think David is the executive director, and Melanie, who's accepting the request for reimbursement as a senior accountant, to take a look at. Because I know even here, we have the same policy, but sometimes there are times and things we all get busy, especially at the senior level, for reimbursements. But our concern was that we were getting requests for reimbursements going back several years. I'm not as concerned about getting something within, 60 days or 45 days as I am several years. So we put the word may in there, may be denied.
And Cliff, I'll go to you on that, because I know you were the first person to raise this concern. Does that change satisfy your concern, or is there additional language that you'd like to see about there being an appeal process?
No, I think that's adequate. I wasn't trying to overwork it. Just seems like a sense of fairness should have played into that policy, and I think that provides that, Melanie. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a simple way to do it. May be denied, and then that gives discretion, like you said, Debbie, to the policy committee chair and or the executive director to consider ones that may be outside that window when appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Is there additional discussion on this proposed policy?
I think it's needed, and I think it's done very well. Thank you, Debbie. It mirrors pretty much what we do at PSTA, correct? Kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. This is better.
Yeah, it is better, because thank you.
Because Debbie wrote it.
No, and I actually told Brad, I said, you'll be seeing this coming across your desk. So.
Yeah. Tightens it up a bit,
Okay.
which is good.
With that, then, if there's no additional discussion, Commissioner Long and Cliff, do we want to inform the board that there was also consensus on this and go ahead and have the board take a formal vote on it?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, and that brings us to Michael. It looks like you're up to discuss Resolution 2019-05, a resolution accepting the MPO regional coordination structure and best practices for the Tampa Bay region final report.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Good morning, Michael. Yes, you're
Mayor.
coming through loud and clear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So in your packet is, as Madam Chair, you said, Resolution 2019-05, a resolution accepting the MPO regional coordination structure and best practices study for the Tampa Bay regional final report. The resolution follows on the presentation provided by Scott Lane of Stantec and Jeff Creamer of Cutter at last April 26th board meeting, summarizing the final report and its recommendations. Just as a brief reminder, this project began in November 2018 and focused on ways that the Tampa Bay area MPOs can improve their processes for and results of regional coordination. TBARTA did have a very neutral role in this project, serving as the contract administrator and coordinator for meetings and workshops. The purpose of this resolution is therefore to formally accept the results of a study, close the project, and transmit the full final report to FDOT Districts 1 and 7, members of our Bay Area legislative delegation, and the individual MPO boards in our region as well. In this transmission, we will be encouraging that the discussion continue, as the MPOs have already been doing to the TBARTA MPO CCC, and we will also be communicating that TBARTA will continue to host the project documentation on its website. We are recommending your approval by consensus this morning to bring to the board next week for adoption. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Michael, I've read this resolution carefully, and I'm curious about whether or not you see in here any formal, I don't see it, but I just want to make sure I'm not missing an innuendo, for that the TMA, because it does say, and the TMA leadership group, they've been really pushing to have a lot more authority. And in my mind, when I went to the workshops that were conducted by Stantec, I listened to those comments very carefully, and I was concerned that it was, that through innuendo, they were trying to usurp the statutory authority of TBARTA. So my question is, does anything in here do that in any manner, shape, or form?
In the study itself, there is no direction necessarily that the TMA should usurp the authority of TBARTA. However, one of the short-term recommendations by the consultant was to potentially increase the authority of the TMA leadership group or another regional body such as the CCC to act as more of a policy-making body for the MPOs. So it's my understanding in that recommendation that whatever that body and their authority might be would not have any jurisdiction or authority over TBARTA. Only the MPOs. Does that answer your question?
Well, I hear what you're saying, but I also have been on the receiving end of a lot of those conversations, and I would not be in favor of anything that tries to get in the middle of decision-making for regional projects than we already have right now, because in my humble opinion, I think there are just too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yes, agreed. And that's one of the things this study focused on was reducing the amount of cooks. We certainly need more linemen in the kitchen than we do cooks right now. So part of that recommendation was, particularly for Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas County, rather than decision-making in silos on state and federal funding over the course of a year through their transportation improvement programs, that they would agree within a larger forum so that they're better coordinated, particularly for directing funding to regional projects.
Okay, well then, just keep in mind, if you continue working on this issue as it relates to the TMA, I would be very adamantly opposed to any more authority. And then secondly, if I may, Madam Chair, I just have one other thought and or comment. Number 4, under the now therefore be it resolved, while I have respect for the Bay Area legislative delegation, I do believe that there should be some effort in here to not exclude the leadership of the House and the Senate. Because the leadership in the House and the Senate, coupled with whoever is the chair of TED, Transportation, Economic Development, and what's the other acronym? I just had a brain cramp. Are the key people that really need to have a copy of this. And if there's one thing that stood out at me really largely in this session was how little the key members of the leadership in the committees that affect transportation were included in conversations prior to session starting. So I think that's a, since we're talking about transportation and TBARTA is a more relevant agency today than it has ever been, I do think that the committees in the House and the Senate that have any say-so in our direction and or in our appropriations must be included in any current and or future opportunities to distribute information.
So are you, for clarification, are you requesting that we also include distribution of this report to the TED committee?
Yes.
Transportation, Tourism,
Yes.
and Economic Development?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, yep, that's an easy add. We can add that into
Both
now
of-
therefore paragraph 4.
Both in the House and in the Senate. And it wouldn't hurt since we all, I know we can probably assume that, but if we also included the Florida Department of Transportation Secretary, District 7 and District 1.
Yes, they will be included in the transmission.
Thank you.
For sure.
Do you agree? or-
Yeah, absolutely. The FDOT, I believe, is already referenced in the resolution as being a recipient of the distribution. Is that correct, Michael?
That's correct.
David, Michael, Madam Chair, this is Cliff. On the resolution, item 3, I kind of share Commissioner Long's thoughts about this, not the leadership role, I'm not as concerned about that, but the muddying of the waters comment that she made. David, from your perspective, are all these agencies that we're encouraging to participate in discussing the implementation of short and long-term actions and policies that are in this report, does it muddy the water for us?
I don't think it muddies our water. I think we're independent of whatever it is these agencies do. This report is related to recommendations for the MPOs. So it's really in their hands as to what future direction they take.
But I agree it's in their hands to take whatever particular direction it feels most appropriate, but we're sort of endorsing it by the chairman's signature, and we kind of read it and are encouraging it to take place. Kind of give me the underlying thoughts of why that's very important to TBARTA.
Well, we're actually not endorsing this at all. This is just an acknowledgement that the study is complete and that we are receiving the report and we are distributing it accordingly.
Then that encourages part, I think. I think item 3 should be changed then. If we're accepting the report and saying Godspeed, item 3 of the resolution goes a little beyond that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Cliff. Thank you for that. Encourage certainly could be taken to mean colloquially endorse as well. So the discussion is already continuing through the TBARTA MPOs, CCC, as well as the TMA leadership group. So there may not be a need to have paragraph 3 in there at all.
Yeah, if we're acknowledging the report and understanding that it's happening, and kind of from that perspective, I don't think it muddies the water. If we're encouraging, I read that word more like endorse.
I agree with Cliff.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can remove that from the resolution.
I think if we remove that from the resolution, Commissioner Long and Cliff, does that satisfy your concern?
Yes.
It would.
It satisfies my concerns greatly.
Mine as well.
Thank you.
Okay, and Michael, it sounds like you're amenable to that, and the resolution still does what staff would like to see it do.
Absolutely. Yep, including transmission to leadership of the House and Senate TED committee, NFDOT secretaries will have those changes reflected for consideration by the board.
Thank
Okay,
you.
is there any other discussion on the proposed resolution?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, then with that, I guess Commissioner Long and Cliff, we want to represent the board that this is also moved on for their consideration with our consensus.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. With that, so then I know that we are now, I believe, to new business. I'm scrolling back up to my materials. Information. Are there any information items for our consideration this morning, David?
No.
Okay. In terms of other business, I'm not quite sure where this landed, but was there any language that gives flexibility regarding attendance to TBARTA members by phone, included any legislation that passed during the legislative session by TBARTA, or did that, was that made obsolete?
I can respond to that, Melanie. If there was one unforeseen strategy that didn't work out so well, it was in the idea that we could take our amendments and plug them into an existing transportation piece of legislation, and those pieces that we were looking at that we thought would be compatible to our amendments never got on the floor. So for that reason, we're still in the same position that we are before the legislature started, and clearly next year we will move forward to identify a sponsor in the House and the Senate that will carry our ideas about attendance in a regular bill, because there was no opportunity to amend it onto anything. And with that said, I'm really happy that you brought up that issue, Madam Chair, because attendance is a really big sticky point for me personally, and I don't know if it's just my own thing, but you know, it's one thing to not be able to come to a meeting for unforeseen circumstances, because we all know that life happens. But if you commit to at least call in, and you can't even pick up your cell phone to call our staff and say, oops, I had an accident or something happened, you know, my dog had hot spots, or my nanny isn't available today. I mean, those are legitimate reasons for a hiccup. But I find it terribly disrespectful to those of us that work so hard to participate. And by the way, it isn't lost on me that our very accomplished attorney is sitting here and billing hours. Not that I don't want you to make money, Alan, I'm all about that. But, you know, I'd like to ask a legal question, Alan, if I may.
Absolutely.
Can we not amend our own bylaws to require a certain amount of attendance? And if you don't, then you're off the committee and somebody else is appointed that will really care? Why can't we do that?
The board could adopt an attendance policy that would apply to its appointments to the committees, and an appointment to a committee could be rescinded by the board if people did not meet an attendance requirement.
Did you hear that, Cliff and Melanie?
I did, and David and I actually, just to give a little bit more background, David and I discussed this, and my understanding is that it depends on sort of what we're talking about. To your point, whether it's committee meetings, the board, meaning that, you know, with the board, while certainly feedback could be given to the governor or to the appointing agency, that technically the appointments aren't in the board, aren't in the board's hands. Now, obviously, with the committee, that feedback can be given to the chair, and then that leads to point number 2, was that staff did work on a proposal regarding attendance, and I had asked, since we thought we were hopefully going to get some relief from the legislature during the legislative session, I had asked that it be tabled to see if it'd be a moot point. It now obviously isn't a moot point, so my recommendation would be that proposed policy change be included in the June policy committee meeting meeting proposed agenda so that we have that for consideration discussion next month. Although I will say that with one caveat, and I also think this may tie into this morning, and I am not making excuses for other committee members by any means, but I also think that too, if we're in a posture where two of the other meetings got canceled, now we're down to one meeting, and we're asking people, and I agree with Commissioner Long, copy on the phone should be something someone can do. I think in terms of making a regional drive for a 20-minute meeting, and they're going to spend 2 hours in the car, that's a lot when we potentially don't have a meaty committee agenda. And I think we really need to be respectful of that, and in those instances start to look at either grouping things together in other months or putting this kind of committee meeting before the board meeting when people are already traveling.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that is exactly why I canceled my parts of the legislative and finance meetings, because we will be meeting before the board meeting instead, number one. And number two, I can assure you that if my county commission or PSTA knew that I was not attending the meetings of the board or the committee meetings that I've been appointed to while I'm serving on the board, I would be removed and someone else would be happy to take my place.
Right.
So.
Well, I definitely think that we should discuss that next month. So, David, if we can look at that, and I guess I will give one caveat to my earlier comments is that, with Commissioner Long, is I guess the issue then is we all move our committee meetings to before the board meeting, then we're in the posture of, poor Cliff is leaving Hernando County at 6 a.m. to make 7 a.m. meetings. So I think we just need to revisit this idea next month and figure out what we're going to do with committee meetings and what the best way is that actually makes it practical for everyone to attend and give feedback.
Yeah, and right, wrong, or indifferent, the drive to PSTA is a significant reason why I don't make all policy committee meetings. I do try to make ones with media agendas, but it is a trip. And like you said, 2 hours in a car for a 20-minute meeting or 30-minute meeting is difficult. So I look at the agenda and I try to make a informed decision. And I am running a business on the side. They'd like me to be in attendance periodically also. So,
well, is there a possibility that if we don't have action items, that we don't really need to meet? I mean, couldn't...
And I guess and maybe I misunderstood, I think my understanding was this the resolution was the quote-unquote the problem, was that we really didn't have a media agenda, but I thought this was the resolution that we were trying to pass last month that got put into this month, and so maybe that was my misunderstanding, but...
No, you're correct. That's true. That resolution we were trying to get through.
For today is that it wasn't a media agenda, but my understanding was that it was something that
Catherine?
Starkey needed to get passed.
Well, here you are, Catherine.
Right, sorry, I totally got distracted and didn't, just looked at my phone, so sorry I'm late calling in. Well, we were actually just talking about, funny you say that, we were actually just talking about attendance. So what we were talking about is the fact that, fortunately or unfortunately, in the legislature, we did not have verbiage passed that would allow TBARTA to meet by phone. Obviously, we have the option to quote-unquote call in if we have a quorum present, which is what our current bylaw is. But so what I had suggested is that I know staff worked hard on maybe a proposed policy that might help us moving forward, and so we had tabled that to see what happened in the legislative session. And now that we know, I think it would be appropriate to discuss, put it on the agenda for our next committee meeting and see what we might be able to do.
One thing that would be more helpful for me is if the meetings were in a more central location than southern Pinellas County. It's just hard to go down and back for such a quick meeting.
We literally, it's like you knew what we were talking about. That was literally what we were just discussing, and especially, I mean, I think it's difficult for anyone, but especially from our outlying counties, like, with you and Pasco and Cliff and Hernando and that type of thing, being respectful of your time, that it might be, in excess of a 2-hour round trip for a 20-minute meeting.
So,
Yeah.
Is there, I mean, how about, is there a central location that would make it, if you take the region and stick a pin in it, where is the central location? What?
TBARTA office.
Well, let me ask
I
you
don't
this,
think so.
is it too close to our board meetings to have it just before the board meeting? Or do we need to,
Well, one of
do
the
we
things
have to
about
have
there, but I
space?
have a caveat, is you were talking about the fact that if we did that, how early then do we start meeting? You know, so the board meeting's at 9:30, you know, and.
Well, let's move the board meeting to 10. I'm the one that moved it to 9:30.
Because, and so that's
We
one
used to meet
idea,
at 10.
and then, and the other idea I had too is if we were to put one or two of the meetings beforehand and one after, or, you know what I mean, if
Yeah,
I guess I would
exactly.
ask staff to play with it, but I think that putting all three beforehand may be a challenge with people. Again, I don't want our outlying counties to have to be getting up at 6 a.m. or leaving the house 6 a.m. to make a meeting, but I think there's a way to do it that might be more efficient for everyone.
Yeah.
From my perspective, if it's tied to the board meeting date, even if I got up earlier and had to get down there to make the meeting, it'd still be more convenient than trying to catch policy and legislative and finance meetings different days down in Pinellas County. That's really what the difficult part for me is.
And then,
I agree.
this is Commissioner Long, is there a way that we can have our committee meetings only be focused on action items that require a vote? And they're limited to about 30 minutes? I mean, could we do that? Because if we did that and we moved our board meeting to 10, well then, that should
We could
show.
start it around 8:30.
Yeah, I mean, that's not unreasonable. There are plenty of companies that their whole business day starts at 8 o'clock.
I don't know if the district secretary picked us out, but the best central location is the district office in Tampa.
Yeah, well,
They don't have video conferencing capability.
they don't have video conferencing capability over there. Their technology is really antiquated. And it might be
Wait,
centrally.
do we have to have video for a policy meeting?
For all of them.
For all the meetings.
For all the meetings.
Oh, for all the meetings, we did it before the meeting, okay. So just so you guys know, and I checked into this, and yes, it's true. So when we are at, say, Pinellas County, Hillsborough, or Pasco, and we have it being taped, it's only available in that county. So nobody in Pinellas, nobody in Fernando can watch it when we're in Hillsborough. I don't know if everyone's aware of that.
It's on YouTube.
I was just watching it, so that's, y'all are streaming right now. I went to see, they said you streaming on YouTube, and I hit it while we were talking, and I see everybody in the room, so.
And I was just
streaming.
gonna say, Catherine,
Yeah.
I don't know who
But that's
you,
different.
I don't know who
That's
you
YouTube
married.
streaming.
Okay, so that's a YouTube stream, but that's not,
Yeah.
being shown on, that's not the Hillsborough TV.
The link is on our
I got
website.
You know what I mean? Closed circuit, do you have that in Fernando where you broadcast your
Catherine,
meetings?
Catherine,
Yeah,
the link to the YouTube video that is being streamed for TBARTA is also on TBARTA's website. Maybe that's an
Okay.
announcement that we need to make at the beginning of all of our meetings, Alan, for proper public notice, because, I mean, if people really want to watch it, they can watch it anytime we're meeting. FYI.
okay, good to know.
So, does Hart's facility stream?
I don't know anything about Hart. That's the most public, unfriendly building I've ever been in.
Yes,
We don't know if it-
Hart's facility streams.
I mean, that's also centrally located.
Is that easier for you to get to than, the?
Oh, yeah, straight up 70, oh, yeah. So for Hernando and Pasco County, getting to Hart becomes straight up 75, peel off on 4, and you're right into downtown Ybor and Hart. And then I leave there and have lunch at Columbia. Great.
Thanks for sharing.
Comments, can staff look at, David, can staff look at meeting location as well as, and I know part of it was that we were trying to, rotate, Yeah, you know,
Different
also the
taxes
different counties in which we're in, so, I think we can balance the two, but I think that certainly going back to the earlier comments about how to stack our committee meetings before and after the SPARTA board meeting, or just all before and just put the SPARTA board meeting a little bit later, David, is that something that staff can look at doing?
Absolutely. Is that something we should talk about next week at the board meeting? In terms of moving?
Probably, I would think next steps would be for you to, if it works out, would be to talk to Chair Holton this week, make sure that he's agreeable to that. And if so, then yes, I would think that we could bring it to the board and maybe under the, well, wherever you think best fits, but certainly under the policy committee could be one option. If you have a discussion on it, and if it's amenable, then we can go ahead and make this change.
Why don't you just make an executive decision?
Making the staff travel, you know, to different counties is not as important to me. I really loved it when y'all came up to Fernando. That was great. But I like the idea, just generally finding it at the building, but a central location seems to make the most sense for us to kind of gear up and plan to be at. And then if we can tie the committee meeting, board meeting, that'll just be the day we spend with TBARTA. And the travel will be reasonable because it's in the middle of the district. And we'll put it on our calendars. So I think we'll get better attendance and be able to get your votes done on the same day that we're having board meetings for the policy committee meeting.
And I put in a post that I do think the issues are two different things. So one is just the timing of the meetings, and like you said, Cliff, you know, it's a meaningful day for, you know, board members. But then my understanding about the location was not only, I like your spin on it, though, and that might be one way to argue it would be that it is centrally located, which makes the most sense to get everybody there. My understanding of why we were rotating was that it had to do more with the constituents and showing the actual individual commissions that give us funding, having them have an opportunity to participate and see us in person, and that they then might have more skin in the game and feel more connected to BARTA and the dollars that they are giving us for our project.
That's a great point, Melanie, and to that point, given that we are right in the throes of asking all our county partners to contribute additional dollars to TBARTA, it seems like it's really important that if we're ever going to be in a time frame of rotating, we really need to consider that. And that said, we've only been down to Manatee once. And if all of the counties, I mean, I'll never forget Betsy Benak saying that she was having a hard time keeping her county in the pot. So
I
You
think
bet your Fernando, you bet.
David's change to start rotating was that was the impetus for it. And like I said, I'm not opposed to what you're proposing, Cliff. I just thought that was why we started the rotation.
We haven't really done a rotation. I mean, we've been in Fernando once and Manatee once, so we're not rotating exactly. But I think the periodic visits to the county, you know, with promotional material and showing up and bringing the board and participating with your stakeholders is a very good idea. I'm just not sure it has to be on a rotation basis where, you know, every fifth time we're meeting, we're in Hernando County.
well, but it's really,
It's more up to, the logistics of it, I'm comfortable with David diving into. I do think we should bring it up and get a policy structure together. The most important part of the topic is if we could link them all to the board date. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me, and then where we meet is not quite as important as long as I block that day out for TBARTA.
yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem, and right now the board meetings are scheduled on what I would call a periodic rotational basis, so we are hitting all the counties, but it's not an absolute one-for-one meeting in every single county. I think that the majority of the meetings are either in Pinellas or in Hillsborough, but we do touch on all 5 counties. What we will do is move the committee meetings to the same morning as the board meetings, and we can look at also reducing the time of the committee meetings to maybe 30 minutes if that's more appropriate, so we're able to get through the action items quickly and not schedule a longer meeting than is absolutely necessary.
Well, if we went back to Commissioner Long's idea of starting the board meeting at 10, then we could put on all those days, I would just put from 8 to 10 TBARTA, and then depending on the committee structure and how many committee meetings you wanted to have, we could block them out in that 8 to 10 time frame, and that would not be too difficult for anybody to make, especially if we have a central location most of the time. From my perspective.
I
Betsy?
agree, we can just back into it. Yeah, have one meeting that day, we start at 9 or 9:30, whereas, if you have 3 meetings that day, we'd be looking at starting at 8 or 8:30, depending upon if we want to break between the meetings and the board meeting.
Okay, so we'll plan on scheduling the board meetings at 10 a.m. and then filtering in the committee meetings the same morning as the board meetings at the same location.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, and that leaves, may I bring up one more subject, Madam Chair? I do think it's really critical. We have a great story to tell, given the new relevancy that the legislature has given to TBARTA. And I think we really need to make an effort to present to each of the commissions of TBARTA before we finalize our budgets in the fall. I know that's a lot of work for the staff, but it hopefully will pay back in spades.
Absolutely, and staff welcomes feedback from each of the commissioners as to when they can schedule us to present in front of their full commissions.
Yeah. Is that all right with the rest of you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Okay.
Is there additional business to come before the committee this morning?
Not from staff.
I'm good.
Commissioner Long, Gaines, or Sarkees? Okay.
I have a question for the staff. Are we going to get an update, a real update on our website improvements?
I'll give you a quick couple of notes. The initial design, next Wednesday, FKQ is going to present some of that to us, so we'll actually have some things probably to show. After we see that, we'll revise that a little bit, but we certainly can schedule that in the near future.
Excellent.
We can put that on the agenda for next month as well.
Good job.
And the only other thing that I would note that I wasn't noticing earlier, so it's actually on the website, I thought it was markedly better than it was before, so kudos. The work that's been done thus far. But one other additional thing is that that needs to get dealt with, David, if we can help make a note of this and help me remember, is that I think that the chair either needs to replace Kathleen Shanahan on the policy committee, or maybe do we need to make it clear that I guess my thought is either need to make it clear that he's replacing her with someone, or that he's not replacing that position, so that we have a handle on what the quorum is with this committee, because it makes a difference.
Understood. Yeah, great point. Thank you.
And
then everybody else, it looks like it remains on TBARTA, so unless the chair's going to make changes, it looks like everybody else would be in place.
yeah, but to your point, Melanie, we don't have all our gubernatorial appointees appointed yet. So when I was in Tallahassee a month ago now, we met with the governor's staff and encouraged him to get those appointments done. Because I serve on several boards that have gubernatorial appointees, and none of them have received the gubernatorial appointments yet. Just a thought. We need to.
Right. Well, no, it was Kathleen, because she was serving on behalf of HART, so it looks like the position that Mike Millett, when I was on there, is the only one that's vacant for our board, gubernatorial-wise, and then Kathleen is because of, I guess, the HART position changing, and then I just don't know if it's made clear that, I cannot remember for the life of me, but who's now representing HART on the board? Yeah, fact, who can remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have to figure out, whoever's representing HART on the board, that's where Kathleen came from, so we just need to know if Scherer is now putting the HART representative, the new person, because the website still references Kathleen, which I don't know. And so we just need to figure out if there has been a change by HART, and if there has been, then if Scherer is appointing that person in policy, and if not, like I said, if that person is just going off, or if it's vacant for policy, so we know the quorum.
Yeah, we do have a new hard board member, Rich McLean, but we're not sure of any appointments that Chair Holt has made for him to be on a committee. But it's a great question, and I'll follow up with Chair Holt about it. I know we did add some people to the Finance Committee, but we haven't talked about the Policy Committee yet.
Got it, okay. Okay, with that then, is there any additional business for the policy committee meeting this morning?
I move we adjourn.
All right, and second? All right, we are
Second.
adjourned, and I will see you all at the board meeting. Everybody have a lovely weekend.
You too, bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.